Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta in conjunction with the Confused Wanderer. We are here for part 3 of our Cassiopaean, exposing the Cassiopaean cult, and this is an extension of Who is Vincent Bridges. Now, if you have not seen our original Who is Vincent Bridges episode, you probably want to watch that first. Here it is on Todd's channel. And then I've got my channel here, and as we're filming it, I have not loaded it to my channel yet. But make sure I will tag that in the description box below of my channel. Maybe you should do that for your channel as well.
Or maybe if they could even go back and start with the first exposing the Cassiopaean cult, start with that, because I think that's an important place to start.
But we definitely want you to watch the Who is Vincent Bridges part 2. Of our before watching this, was because this is a continuation. If you saw us for the first one, that was almost 2 hours, and so we decided to break it because that's a lot to take in one sitting. But before we get into it, Todd, we had a lot of positive feedback with our interaction. I think we made a lot. I kind of freaked out at you because you're new to YouTube, and so you're new to like the special words that we can't say on YouTube because of community guidelines. Now, and so I got so many texts from people laughing because I kept yelling Yahtzee at you.
I'll get better at it.
So, guys, what he did, his channel is new, and so he can probably afford a few goof ups on his channel. But my channel, we put this on my channel too, is under scrutiny all the time, and so I have to be doubly careful on my channel. And so we're gonna share screen, but you went back and like changed all the words on the article that we're gonna read so that you wouldn't accidentally say.
I think I got all of them, but you're better schooled at what could be said and not said.
You learn through hardship on YouTube over what can be said and what cannot be said. And that's not something, guys, I think most of you guys understand. Like, I wish we didn't have to do that. Like, I find it ridiculous, but this is YouTube's platform. It's their house, it's their rules. And so in order for us to have a presence here, we have to play the game. And so we're going to play the game. I think most adults absolutely know what we're saying when we say the fake words like unalived or Yahtzees, or Yitler, as I say sometimes, instead of the H, Yitler. So with that being said, is there anything you want to add to this, Todd, before we get into the episode today?
Just that I recommend that people go in and look on YouTube and look up Vincent Bridges, because he's an incredible individual. We went back and watched the Nostradamus 500 that he did on, I think he did it for the History Channel, and he was like the main speaker on that. And I mean, that was all, that whole episode, or that whole show, it was a segment, like an hour and a half, was all about his research into Nostradamus. But he also is deep into the mystical teachings and ancient magical practices and alchemy, and he's just really well researched and well versed in these practices, and absolutely fascinating man. And to have what happened to him with Laura Knight and the way that he was attacked, I'm not even going to put links to all of the 700,000 words that she wrote about him, smearing him for no reason other than a cult just needs a villain, basically. And the fact that how dare he decide not to publish her books because he eventually got in touch with the original channeler of the Cassiopaeans and realized that the original channeler didn't want books published, didn't want to make money off of this material, and had already stepped away from Laura. And so as Vincent Bridges was moving forward, and the story's going to get there, when we read all of Vincent Bridges' accounts, but I just wanted to put this out there that all of this started, Vincent Bridges started to get attacked because he decided that he didn't want to publish Laura's books and did not want to have her participate in his conferences just because he saw what was going on behind the scenes. And so he politely just sort of stepped back, and that's what started the huge smear campaign and basically stalking of, cyber stalking of Vincent Bridges.
There's a really great, I was just telling you, I'm just going to interrupt quickly just so I don't forget. There's a really great hidden true crime episode that I was actually just listening to when you got home. It's like a 3-hour, and that's one of my favorite channels. We love hidden true crime. We find it fascinating. Dr. John, a clinical psychiatrist, psychologist, I don't know which one he is, but he goes through and breaks down the psychology of criminals in these big cases, and it's very fascinating. Is it like he's great, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. I really enjoy listening to him.
Well, his wife has experienced some cyber. His wife, who does the podcast with him, she is a retired, I guess, news anchor. I mean, she's still a journalist because of what they do. And she had experienced some cyber stalking. Of course, I have as well. As you know, Todd, some pretty brutal cyber stalking that we took it to the courts in Florida. And I was telling you, when I got home, I was listening to this podcast on and off today, and it brought me a lot of realizations listening to Dr. John to talk about what actually psychologically happens to victims of cyber stalking, and how cyber stalking is very different from all stalking is bad, but very different from other forms of stalking because of the internet. And so I'm going to link that below. I'll send it to you, Todd, to link in your, because I think that's really important for people to listen to understand the gravity of what this does to people. Mm-hmm. And also, what was interesting in this episode is that he kind of found out through research that in a lot of cases, when it's a female who is doing the stalking, which is the same in my case, for some reason the courts always go easier, mm-hmm. even though women can be even as violent and vicious as men can be. And so I'm going to tag that below. And I want to clarify before we get into it too, Todd, speaking of cyber stalking and freedom of speech, what you and I are doing right now is exposing stuff that we found to warn people. We're not doing this to try to harass Laura or any of the Cassiopaenists at all. People are free to make their own choices over who they follow. I just feel like this is a duty for us to do because I brought the Cassiopaean material on my channel. And so I feel like I have a responsibility to show this other side to it and to give my opinions from my gut reactions over things that I was picking up in the material. And so I want to make that very clear that we don't want anybody going and like harassing Laura or harassing ARC or harassing the members of their cult. We are just exposing what has already been exposed. And so, and with saying that as well, we are aware, we're waiting for it actually, that we will be labeled, Todd and I will be labeled organic portals. We are aware of that. That's what she does. That's her modus operandi. Whenever, the best.
Or that we're possessed by Lizzie's.
Yeah. That's her modus operandi. Anytime anybody has dissent or questions anything, they are immediately painted black. And Dr. John kind of goes into that in this podcast. Like, this obviously shows levels of psychopathy, of cluster B personality disorders, which would be like narcissism or, any type of borderline that they call it. There's many of them, but those behaviors, painting things black and white, show signs, obviously, of a mental disorder. But I just want to make that very clear to you guys. Don't worry about us. We're fully aware that she's going to make stuff up because she's done it to many. If she did it to Vincent Bridges, she's absolutely going to do it to us. And Todd and I are waiting for it. And when that reading comes out, we're going to read it to you guys. We're going to publicly read to you what she wrote about us. We even said this morning, Todd, because in the first episode we actually challenged her if she's watching this. We know she is watching these, but we challenged her to actually film a channeling session live. Do it
right,
live.
And that's it. Yeah, and that's another thing I wanted to bring up is that it's important to put this out there because you did start reading the Cassiopaean channelings on your channel. And also the raw material as well. Both the raw material and Cassiopaean material has inspired our work and our lives. And so that's one reason that we feel like it's important to put this out there. But also, I think in the end, as time goes by, it's to try to bring the integrity back to the practice of channeling.
Yeah.
Because channeling,
absolutely.
if done correctly, can bring so much information in.
Support to humanity.
What's that? It's important. Yeah, absolutely important to humanity. It's from what we understand, it's like at the pinnacle of quote unquote secret societies. The reason why you would go through all the indoctrinations, all the study, and all the secrecy is at the very top, the upper echelon. It's the biggest secret is the ability to channel.
Yeah. Absolutely. You and I have feel so supported by our guides and the entities we talk to that are service to others, and so it's important, and it's important to understand that, it's important to understand that, that 99% of the channeling you see out there is fake. Like
Absolutely.
99% of it is fake.
Yes. And you could tell that it's fake because there is no vetting process to it. There's a protocol that you have to follow. And if you don't follow that protocol, then you're opening, not necessarily yourself, but you're opening the space up to just receive anything, whether it be a discarnate or a service to self, which it's going to be one of those two, most likely, if you don't understand the process.
Yep. And service to self can look like service to others. All that glitters isn't gold. They can manipulate. If you don't ask the right questions, that's your fault. And that is truly, we have to take blame for a lot of the maliciousness in our world, because truly we have consented. They don't lie. The entities, demons or angels, whatever you want to call them, negative or positive, they don't lie. But the way that the negative do it is they say the truth in a way that might confuse you if you don't understand what you're listening for. And I think a lot of people in the world today, Todd, just feel very entitled to be things, not understanding that there is a training process involved in everything. There are apprenticeships involved in everything. And that's really, really, really important. And what we thought, from what we're researching, we thought Laura had that training, but it turns out she never did, from what allegedly it looks like. And I just want to remind people that it's not slander if it's true. If you're speaking out against somebody, and this is, she is asking for donations. This is a kind of a business in a sense, isn't it? And so it's important. That's why businesses have Yahoo reviews and Yelp reviews, to bring attention and awareness to things that are not comfortable for us. And again, her labeling people as organic portals, I know we're going to talk more about that today, is exactly the same. It's no different than the Scientologists labeling people as suppressive people.
Right. And it's okay.
No different.
And it's okay that you're aware that there are such a thing as organic portals, but it wasn't that knowledge wasn't put out there so we could go around and point fingers and say this person's an organic portal, this person isn't an organic portal. That's not what it's all about.
And use it as a defense mechanism.
Right. Yeah. There doesn't need to be, you don't even need to know whether someone is an organic portal or not. If someone is acting out in that way, then, create a boundary, and that's good enough. Because at the end, you'll never truly know. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I will say, if the Scientologist friends that I have, the ex-Scientologist friends that I have, can handle having websites created, smearing them by the Church of Scientology, calling them suppressive people, Todd and I can handle her changing a transcript to make us look bad, right? Like, we're tough, we can handle it. You even said, Todd, last night you came to the realization that because she has no video footage or recordings of her channeling, we don't even know if she's actually channeling or if she's just typing up a transcript and putting it on we have no way of knowing. We do know for sure that from 1994 to 2000, she changed transcripts because we have the originals. We know that and the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior.
Oh, and also below in the description of all the YouTube videos on this subject, I'm going to put a link so you can go and download the original transcripts that Fred made, the original channel of the Cassiopaeans, between 1990, between 1994 and 2000. You can download those, and you can go onto the Cassiopaean website and look at their transcripts and look at look at Fred's transcripts, and yeah, sometimes we say Frank, sometimes we say Fred. His real name is in here, and we're just gonna, so if you hear me say Frank, I'm used to saying Frank, but eventually, I did the digging and the research, and
it's the same person.
Yeah, it's the same person. Right.
And so, we don't have any way of seeing where she's changed transcripts 2000 on, because Frank was no longer involved after 2000. But if she was changing transcripts for 6 years straight, rest assured, we can speculate that she is changing transcripts now for sure.
Right.
And so, and I find that the fact that she doesn't videotape, record them channeling to be highly suspicious, that she is obviously changing things.
Something's going on there.
Something's not right. Yeah. There's no transparency, and that's not right.
Yeah. And if we ever put out what we're doing with Lou, it'll be videotaped. We're not going to hide anything. We're not going to,
I've been very open about that on my channel, Todd. Like, I don't take videos down. The only times videos go down is if the platform takes them down. Like, I'm a human being. I'm fallible, just like everybody else. And part of the experience of being on this earth is to learn and grow. And so we're going to put up the actual, if we actually do that eventually, when we're ready to do that, because it is a vulnerable position to be in, we're going to just put it up. And that's the difference between the raw material too, right? I mean, they have, back in the day when the raw material was being created, there was no YouTube, but they took recordings. There was an actual recording.
And video. There's videos of it online on YouTube as well.
And they're still out there for you. You can actually listen to the sessions yourself, unedited, so that there's proof that they're not trying to change anything. But there's none of that with Laura. There's no transparency when it comes to Laura. And that's scary when you're dealing with spirituality. I'm not a fan of the church, the Christian church, but I will say the church doesn't hide anything. You know what the belief system is. So, at least even the church is being honest with what they believe. They're not hiding anything. So why is Laura hiding stuff? Why? There's always, and that's a red flag for a cult. The Scientologists say that. Why is Scientology having these secret groups? Which we'll talk about that. There is one with the Cassiopaeans, an elite group. So anyway, is there anything else you want to add to that, Todd, before we get started?
No. So we're going to just jump in and start reading part 4 of Vincent Bridges' experience, and then we're going to move into the only message that the original channeler of the Cassiopaean material put out, and then we're going to move on into. I'm trying to do all this in chronological order, and so the next part will be an update that came out after what we're reading now was published.
I mean, we've got countless episodes. I mean, Vincent Bridges literally left us with so much content, guys.
And the fact that it's been buried for 25 years. And something I realized as I was reading over it again last night, I was talking to Bryce, is that it was pretty much exactly 25 years ago, because this stuff was written in 2000. It was 23 years ago. 2002 in October.
I mean, that gives me chill, but there's so many things about this that makes me feel like we are being supported by the great beyond to put this out, because, when Vincent Bridges said, "This is my service to humanity, to warn people," that gave me chill bumps in our last episode. And I feel like since Vincent Bridges is no longer with us, he had a heart attack in 2014 at 63. I think he was 63. And crazy to think 11 years ago we would be sitting here doing this with his work. And so,
and the fact that it was buried so deep in the internet, it was basically just erased until I started doing digging, and here we are with, months worth of material that we could read, and it just gets crazier and crazier as you keep going.
And the fact that you're Laura's cousin, this is just karmic. This is absolutely karmic. And we hope that by us doing any person watching that has been hurt by Laura, scammed by Laura, hurt by the cult, we hope that by doing this, not only are we warning other people to be careful, but we're also bringing you some peace. We believe you. Anybody out there that feels like no one's going to believe them with Laura, we believe you. And I would have believed you regardless, because I already got a really bad feeling in my gut about her when I was starting to read her transcripts on air. So, I hope this brings peace to those people. And don't worry, if you don't want to come out, we would love to have people come out and tell their story. If they want to, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. But we understand if you don't want to, and we're tough. Todd and I are tough. We've taken smear campaigns before, and we can do it again. Please, like, Laura is nothing compared to what we've been through in the past. And so we will take that for you in order to get this out. Again, we're fully expecting them to attack us. We're fully expecting Laura to make stuff up about us, because apparently she's good at that too. And so we're fully expecting it. So it's not going to stop us. We're going to keep going. This is not going away.
No.
So, all right.
Okay, I guess I'll start reading first here. Let me
share screen so our people can see.
Screen.
And again, I'm going to reiterate, guys, speaking of editing, I'm just going to be transparent again. Todd changed certain words. He went and changed certain words because of YouTube's guidelines, so that he wouldn't accidentally say a word he can't say. So if you see that in the article as you're looking on the screen, he did edit that. So we're being transparent, and it's just for YouTube. So.
Yeah. Okay, I'll start. So part 4. Before we move on to the arrival of Ark, the third miracle, it might be helpful to stop and look back at what the St. Pete Times article, Laura's main credibility crutch, has actually told us about Laura so far. First, her childhood was anything but normal. When lizard man faces peering in windows, a stepfather kidnapping, and 4-day disappearance, and a sense of uniqueness that comes from feeling different. We may see the hurricane incident at 14 as an unaliving attempt, if true, and a
compensatory fantasy.
I know, I lost my place. In a compensatory fantasy, if not. Either way, the picture emerges of a child with many deep-rooted emotional problems. Second, between the ages of 14 and 37, we are told nothing of Laura's history except that she was unaliving again in her 20s, and that she met Lewis at the local community college. The implication is that she met Lewis, fell in love, and started a family. The truth, as Laura herself has revealed in her voluminous and ongoing autobiography, Amazing Grace, is quite different. Third, between 1989 and 1993, Laura had several experiences that convinced her that she was even more special, culminating in the second of 3 miracles in her life, her UFO sighting. 4, from these events came the core of the Cassiopaean experience. Laura had made the Ouija board work for her in the Montana affair, so naturally she would prefer that as a way to channel. And of course, the whole issue of UFOs and so on would be at the center of the developing belief system. Hence, her coming out party, so to speak, at the local MUFON meeting where Tom French met her can be seen as a very significant event. In his article, Tom French does address the trauma in Laura's childhood and possible pathology arising from it. However much we might wish that he had insisted on the psychological examination, given the events of the past few months, it was his choice, and ultimately he was right. The St. Pete Times article was not meant as an expose on the pathology of talking to aliens on a Ouija board. However, it is less understandable why he ignored an entire 23-year period of her life. We can be sure that if there had been anything in those years that was of value to Tom French's main thesis, how well Laura coped with her belief system in fantasy world, he would have mentioned it. Since these years are likely glossed over, and even though Tom informs us that he questioned her about them, we can only suppose that the details are such that if they had been brought to light, the focus of the article would have inevitably become the pathology of someone who believes they talk to aliens via a Ouija board. Indeed, from her autobiography, she spares no one any of the details that Laura can make seem significant. We can see that there are many truly pathological episodes indicative of a very unusual personality, to say the least, in those missing years. Even with Laura's attempts to spin doctor and put the best light on everything by constantly blaming everyone else for her mistakes, there were apparently things so bizarre and pathological that even Amazing Grace couldn't explain them away. On one such incident, Laura herself has recently seen fit to supply the long-suppressed details. In an article curiously titled, "What is Laura Hiding? The Cassiopaeans Answer," Laura reveals what may be the pivotal moment in her development. Since the reader will quickly note that in addition to her usual slanderous comments about me, Laura has now decided that I somehow am blackmailing her because her guilty conscience determined that my sordid saga comment could only mean that I had discovered her deepest, darkest secret and was going to use it against her. Never mind that the sordid saga referred to was the complete unedited transcripts, or that the story of my own involvement in her sordid enough a saga in and of itself. In Laura's mind, it can only be the secret. Yes, I had indeed heard a rumor through a source that wishes to remain anonymous that Laura had such an incident in her past. When I located Mr. Earland and asked him about it.
That's Frank.
Yeah. He confirmed only that Laura had told him a version of the story. He added that he didn't really believe it because of her long record of inflating the facts and confusing them with her own fantasies. And there the matter rested until one of Laura's intelligence sources informed her that I was asking questions on the subject. She immediately produced the article, complete with comments from now omniscient Cassiopaeans and her version of the story, supposedly the very one she had emailed to ARC early in their email romance. However, as there have now been at least 3 versions of that original email, one version adds just a touch here or there, one must wonder just how honest she is really being. A story that changes 3 times over the course of 2 days in response to reader comments and a need to appear even more sympathetic simply cannot be considered credible. Here's the latest version as of 3 p.m. Sunday, January 13th, 2002. As I noted, my mother was a bookkeeper who had contracted with several local businesses to do their books. One of these businesses was owned by a man who was also something of a local politician. He ran for a state office and was elected, so spent much of his time in Tallahassee, the state capital. Mother ran his business for him. He was sort of like a local bigwig who had a home in the country and an apartment in Tallahassee. When he was in residence there, he would come to the house and discuss the business with Mother and drop off and pick up the accounting and checks and deposits and so forth. During this time, I was spending many hours a day practicing the piano. I would practice in one room while they would spread out papers on the table in the other room.
Pause. So not only is she apparently reading 10,000 books in a lifetime, but now she's practicing piano for hours a day? Surviving hurricanes and trees?
Yeah.
Okay. And just note that.
Yeah. One day, Mother announced this man had expressed an interest in me and wanted to send me to school in Tallahassee where he could oversee my care. She thought this was wonderful and a great opportunity. This is very curious, but most bizarre is the third paragraph. This is an image taken directly from Dr.
Zhivago. Okay, yeah, Dr. Zhivago. Mike, so have I ever told you about this, Todd?
No.
So my mother, when my mother was pregnant with me, Dr. Zhivago was her favorite movie. It's also a book. It takes place in Russia, and the main character is a woman named Laura. My mother wanted to name me Laura because of Dr. Zhivago, and my grandmother Maxine, my mom's mom, came in and put her foot down because Laura is not a family name.
Yeah.
And we're old school Southern, so every single person in my family has a full-on family name.
Yeah.
So
what is he's saying here that this image is
taken from a movie.
I see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So okay.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard does the same thing, by the way. Takes images of a movie and puts it in her life.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's what I was wanted to get clear on. Okay. So here we go. It was agreed that this plan would be put into action, but I had to finish school first. So I attended locally from September 1969 to December 1969. At that point, the plan was that I would go to Tallahassee and finish high school there in an accelerated class and then be enrolled at the university. So in January, I went. An apartment had been reserved for me in the same building this man lived in when he was there doing his legislative duties whatever they were. Okay. Everything had been arranged. So I went to school, met new people, and things were fine for a few months through April. The apartment building had a nice pool, and I enjoyed studying by the pool, or for me, at least reading. A friend of mine came to stay with me because I was lonely, and her mother knew this man also and thought this would be fine for her as well. Can you take up?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the spring of 1970, this is the spring of 1970, and two high school girls are living alone in an apartment hundreds of miles from home under the care of an older man, and no one notices anything unusual. I just don't believe it as presented. There must be more to the story than that. So that's something that Vincent Bridges is saying. Yeah, this is highly unusual.
Right.
So Laura goes on to say, one night he came to our apartment and asked me to come down so he could talk to me privately since he had something very special to tell me, and it was a surprise. So in an hour, when I was done with my homework, I walked down the outside walkway and knocked on the door. He answered wearing a robe and smoking a cigar with a glass of liquor in his hand. To make a long story short, it became clear that the man was expecting payment for his help. I was so dumb that I actually thought he was just being a nice guy with a fatherly interest in me, but that wasn't the case. Now Vincent is saying, this scenario is at least possible, but here we must try to remember back 30 years. Well brought up young ladies who had just finished their homework upstairs didn't enter a gentleman's apartment if he was drinking and only partially clothed. However, such things do happen. I'm going to push back. I don't think this happened at all. I don't think she was. No. I don't think so.
No.
Well, I said no. He got rough. And when he got rough, I fought back. When I fought back, he became enraged and started choking me. Since we happened to be standing in the kitchen and I was being pressed back against the counter and was starting to lose consciousness, I threw my hands back to grab the counter to keep from falling. When I did, my hand landed on a heavy object with a handle. I grabbed it and hit him with it. He loosened his hold momentarily, but then started squeezing again, and I hit him again, only harder this time since I had been able to get a breath. I hit him again in the head, and it was sort of a nightmare where he was totally enraged, and I was totally determined to hit him until he let go of me. This seems like a movie to me, too.
Yeah.
Describing. So Vincent Bridges says, that makes 3 heavy blows with what? A saucepan, an iron skillet? The kitchen is such an awkward place for a seduction that our suspicions are aroused once again. Komarovsky clearly treated Laura in the movie better than that. At this point, he was bleeding on me, still refusing to let go, so I hit him again. I think I must have landed about 4 or 5 good ones before he let go to try to protect his head from another. And when he did, I ran like hell. I was sure he was going to go after me, and I made it to my apartment, banged wildly at the door for my friend to let me in. She did and was utterly horrified. We were both just hysterical. Vincent says, that makes 7 or 8 good solid shots, hard enough to lacerate the scalp with a heavy object. He let go because he was probably unconscious. Note, however, what happens next. So Laura says, She was hysterical at the blood all over me, and we didn't know what to do. So she made me take off my clothes and go take a shower. Then, while I was in the shower, still shaking with the thought that the man could force his way into the apartment, she told me that the police cars and an ambulance were in the parking lot outside. Apparently, the man had gone out to the balcony and yelled, "Ape," or some such nonsense, and someone heard him and called the police. I was dressed and shaking violently when the knock came at the door. He made a statement to the emergency room crew that I had attacked him for no reason after coming onto him. Vincent says, now Laura has left the guy for dead.
Aha!
Now Laura has left the guy for unaliving, run to her apartment, taking a shower, changed clothes, all before the cops could track her down. And of course, her roommate made her do it. Never once, although she has been attacked and almost aped. You can't say the G word either, Todd. So we usually say grape, like a grape. You know what I'm talking about? The R word. Sorry,
I know. That's why I put aped.
Oh, okay. So you actually changed the word. Okay, cool.
Right. That's what I was trying to tell you, that I
thought that was something that was in the. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I mean, yeah.
You can't say, yeah, good. So, you can't say the R word. Never once, although she had been attacked and almost aped, perhaps.
No. Oh, I see.
And almost unalived, her attacker, does she make that 911 call? The police have to come to her door to question her. Note also that in her original version of this paragraph, the man crawled to the balcony and called help, not ape. And the last sentence is missing. That changes the tone of the paragraph. Laura says, I told them what really happened and they were satisfied, but told me not to go anywhere for a while until they investigated further. Vincent says, yet she still didn't file any charges against her attacker. Laura says, and seemingly the incident was closed, but 3 days later, I was called out of my English class to find a message at the police department which to ask me a few more questions. So after school, I took the bus to the police headquarters. When I walked in, expecting to answer questions, handcuffs were immediately placed on me and I was arrested for, I can't read that whole sentence, all of that sentence. Can you highlight that for the audience? Because it's not just the last word, it's all of that.
Well, I changed the.
I know, but it's all of it. The word. Yeah.
Okay.
So she's basically being charged with trying to unalive somebody with a weapon.
Yeah.
Guy had created a fantastic story in which he was the innocent victim of a crazed teenager. Vincent says this paragraph has also changed to highlight her victimhood. The last sentence is new and is designed to support her victim status. But the reality of the situation seems to be clear from law enforcement's point of view. She beat the man senseless and left him for unaliving. Then went to her apartment and destroyed the incriminating evidence. How could they not arrest her? Laura then says, and then I was taken and locked in a cell. There was no way to describe such a transition, none. If a person is of a nature that they deliberately break laws, there is some idea in their mind that this could be the result. But for a person who has essentially done nothing wrong, but be stupid and naive, someone who has been betrayed by someone she trusted, who has been viciously attacked, and then instead of anyone realizing that I was the victim, I was put in jail on the words of a psychopath and charged with trying to unalive him. Seems like she's saying, like, because she does that. She scams people. She's basically projecting everything she is onto her victim.
And why, if this is really the story, cut and dry like this, why wouldn't this have been put in her autobiography? Like, why?
Why? Yeah, there's so many holes in this story. It's unbelievable.
Right.
All women who have suffered this way understand that such an event in a class by itself, especially when the realization comes that grandfather cannot fix it, mother cannot fix it, no one can fix it. And when the realization comes that this was a capital crime and just having someone come and pay money to get one out of jail was not possible, well, just imagine it. Vincent says, this paragraph has undergone several subtle changes to make it match more closely the comments given on the reader's comment section of the article. Note that she feels she has done nothing wrong, even though she almost unalived a man, left him for unaliving, and went and destroyed the evidence. She feels completely innocent and justified in her behavior. She is the victim, even though somebody else is in the hospital. Laura says, a week later, I was taken in handcuffs to court and stood before a judge who read the formal charges. I was just 18 years old and had to walk down a public street between two police officers in chains. The judge asked me if I had legal counsel. I started to cry and said no, but a man sitting in a row of attorneys jumped to his feet and came forward and said, yes, she does, Your Honor. I'm offering my services. He then asked me if I would accept him as my attorney, and I said yes, so that was settled. I had an attorney. His name was Brian T. Hayes. He was assisted by a crackerjack private investigator, Joseph Alloy. I don't know how to say the last name.
Yeah.
And both of them were literally knights in shining armor. Vincent says, Mr. Hayes was hired by Laura's maternal grandfather, according to my original source, and was well paid for his services. Laura says, Laura says, what they discovered about my benefactor was shocking. It seems that I had been the prey of a very sharp operator who had been trying to gradually draw me into his ugly operation. Vincent says, sounds a lot like the situation with Vincent Bridges, eh? They do this, don't they?
Uh-huh.
They narcissists kind of use the same playbook with everything. It's never their fault. It's always somebody else is doing it to them.
Yeah.
And only my instinctual refusal to be used had saved me. Indeed, my resistance had plunged me into somewhat of a serious problem, as it had repeatedly in my life. The powers of darkness don't like it when you resist their attempts to control you or draw you into their plans. It is the same now as it was then. It's crazy. Okay, Vincent says, she reveals just a glimpse of her pathology here as she confuses me with the Komrovsky character in her past. So from Dr. Zhivago. Yeah. She sees herself as like the heroine, doesn't she? She's a victim. She wants knight in shining armors. Everything is a fantasy to her. Same thing with Gypsy Rose Blanchard. If you guys are following that case, she quotes movies. Everything's like a situational thing to her. There was one funny in her reality show where, she's left her husband, Todd. She's living with her person that she had the affair with, and her ex-husband and this person are fighting. And she goes, well, I'm Switzerland. And it was so embarrassing because the guy that she had an affair with, he goes, well, I guess I'm Germany then. And she laughed awkwardly because she goes, no, I'm quoting Twilight. Uh-huh. She didn't even know that Switzerland, that's a comment that refers back to World War II.
Right, yeah.
She thought that was from the movie Twilight when the vampire and the werewolf were fighting over her.
Yeah.
So it's the same pathology, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's see. Laura says, you see, as a minor government official, my benefactor had a little sideline. He made home movies used for blackmail. Apparently, he had plans for me. He wanted to use me as the star in movies that would be filmed by a secret camera set up in the AC vent. These movies would then be used to extort money, favors, and probably even special brands of lobbying. So she's making herself into we can't say the T word, Todd, but a carpooling victim, a potential carpooling victim. And I don't mean to sound nasty about this, but the likelihood of this with her is very low, I would say. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would say that as well.
I don't think she's the merchandise, we'll say, that people are looking for. Does that make sense? I don't mean to sound mean when I say that. I'm just looking at it. If carpooling is a business that they need it to be lucrative, they're going to look for particular women. And I don't think Laura fits that description of what they're looking for.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay. I'll read.
Okay.
All the evidence of this little business was discovered while the guy was in the hospital desperately trying to load. Wait, is this Laura?
This is Laura saying this.
Yeah, okay. All of the evidence of this little business was discovered while the guy was in the hospital desperately trying to lie his way out of the mess he was in. He even tried to change his claims that I had assaulted him for no reason. He was so desperate to avoid scrutiny. But it was a no-go. Once the state decides to prosecute, it doesn't matter if someone was formerly claimed to be a victim, has now changed his mind. The state is a juggernaut, and the trial did take place.
You know what I think, Todd?
What's that?
I think, this is just my opinion, guys. This is not based on fact. This is just my opinion. I think she saw this guy as successful, and she wanted to be with him for his money and his power, and he turned her down.
It's possible. Yeah.
And she got mad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, the bloodbath in the courtroom was actually worse than the one at the time of the incident. The guy, like all true psychopaths, lied himself black in the face, even when confronted with hard evidence of his intentions, his actions, his perfidy in his own writing, and the end result was a resounding return of the verdict of not guilty by reason of self-defense. And the only reason he wasn't prosecuted for his own crimes was that he was so pitiful and swore he had learned his lesson. And also because he still had a few people in government offices who would go to bat for him, probably because he was blackmailing them. And then
Vincent, yeah.
Yeah, and Vincent says, a verdict of not guilty by reason of self-defense means the charge is true. She did try to unalive her attacker, but the person was justified in that action. In other words, she got away with it. Her attacker was not prosecuted because she did not, ever it seems, file any charges against him. This, in and of itself, is very curious. And so we are left with a story of a very disturbed young woman in very serious trouble. This pivotal incident in Laura's life was apparently researched by Tom Finch and then glossed over in the article. Moments where she had a mistake or done something she regretted. But Mr. Finch must surely have realized this one event so colored Laura's reality that much of what happened in the following years is directly attributed to the beliefs she formed from it. Most obvious, perhaps, is the fact this disturbed her senior year of high school, and she, in all likelihood, didn't graduate. From this slight would come a burning desire to continually prove herself smarter, better read than anyone else around her. Eventually, this knee-jerk reaction would lead her to attempt to rewrite history, genealogy, physics, and so on to match the received knowledge, so much better than an education anyway, of the Cassiopaeans. Less obvious, but even more powerful, is a sense of entitlement and invulnerability this close call gave her. Does that make sense?
That's a heavy sentence. Let's read that again.
Yeah, less obvious, but even more powerful is the sense of entitlement and invulnerability this close call gave her.
So instead of being like, oh my God, I can't believe I got away with this, I'm so lucky, it gave her a sense of, it probably fed her narcissism.
Right. Yeah. She got away with it. She was not held accountable. The jury decided she was justified in her actions, which is an even stronger reinforcement of a sense of entitlement. So not only did she get away with it, but in her mind, it felt as if it were a gift of complete invulnerability, a get out of jail free card that was meant to last her the entire length of the game, perhaps even for life. And at the deepest level of all, it convinced her that there was something very confusing and wrong about herself. Even now, more than 30 years later, the guilty pleasures and confusions of the episode rise to the surface in her ever-changing description of the incident. Her title says it all. What is Laura hiding? Well, it isn't just that she prefers not to discuss this event. No, Laura is hiding the deep, dark secret of herself, the wounded and abused child who has finally created a fantasy big enough and all-encompassing enough to subsume all the lesser dramas of life rich with such emotional feats. The Cassiopaeans and the cult arising from the material are, in a way, an artistic expression of Laura's deeply repressed fantasies of power, revenge on the abuser, and the titillation of psychic exhibitionism laced with the adoration of the faithful. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I will say, guys, for us on the screen, these words are really small. And both Todd and I have our glasses on, and it's still hard to see these words sometimes.
Okay. In this heady psychological brew that is threatened by any objective appraisal, even one as positive as Tom French's of Laura's life or work. I'm not getting these sentences right. I'm sorry.
Do you want me to read?
No, I'm going to get this last thing.
Okay.
It is this heady psychological brew that is threatened by any objective appraisal, even one as positive as Tom French's of Laura's life or work. No wonder she wanted to go out and raid news boxes. Any depiction of her life but her own is absolutely forbidden. It's just that Vincent Bridges sometimes writes in a peculiar way, and so I'm finding it hard sometimes to deliver the sentences with the right pauses and punctuation.
Yeah. Well, basically, she has to control the narrative of her life, because
exactly, that's what it all comes down to. But so
fantasy gets destroyed.
Right. So she would rather no one write, even if it's positive, that no one write about her and her life. And it's never going to be good enough unless she puts it out there, which is why she wrote a 5-book autobiography that's, got some readings from the Cassiopaeans in it. And, and then really this whole thing, this whole fourth part, in a sense, regardless of how Laura changed the whole story, is the fact that she never put it in her autobiography, even though that autobiography covered every little, episode in her life, right. And so why wouldn't it have had this? Around that. Yeah. Or that, I guess.
Or that the truth would come out.
Yeah. Because who knows? I mean, it sounds like back then when Vincent wrote this, that he never searched for the actual records, didn't do a FOIA.
When did FOIA become a thing? When was
I'm not sure, but I would think that it existed back then. And him being the researcher that he is, I just don't know if I think he was probably just busy with fighting this battle and didn't go in and try to find the material. We should look into that, because I think that would shed some light on this whole thing. But really, regardless of what the story is, she wanted to bury it, and that's strange that you would withhold that when you write.
You can't get FOIA applies to records from federal agencies, but not to records held by Congress or state or local governments. It also can concern the age of the victim, and can also concern the year the crime happened, that you might not be able to get.
I see. Yeah. So regardless of what the story is, it's just fishy that it wasn't in there.
Do you want me to read now?
Yeah, sure. So this is... So
obviously this is coming from Frank.
Well, I have his name. His name's right
Fred,
here.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Hi, Vincent. I will now make the following statement on your behalf. My name is Frederick Grant Ireland. I give full and complete permission to Vincent Bridges to publish in full or in part the Cassiopaean transcripts in the way that he chooses for whatever purpose that he deems appropriate. I participated in all of these sessions that took place between July 1994 and November 2000. My participation in the channeling sessions was to an extent as great as or greater than any of all the other participants. Thank you, Fred Ireland. Fred Ireland participated as channel in every one of the Cassiopaean sessions so he was the channel. He participated as the channel. We talked about that. Frank, he's called Frank in the book, was the main channel in every one of the Cassiopaean sessions between 1994 and 2000. When he was not available, no channeling sessions took place. That's very important, guys. When Frank or Fred was not available, they didn't do channeling sessions. Some of the transcripts contain material that was channeled by Mr. Ireland alone. And that's the one I told you that are my favorite, when it's just him. Miss Knight Yadczyk produced no material that was not without the direct assistance of Mr. Ireland. After Mr. Ireland left in October 2000, there was no viable session until March of 2001, when Vincent Bridges, took Fred's role on the other side of the planchette. So then Vincent Bridges became the main channel. There were no further sessions until Laura and Ark began channeling with the Nazis. Yahtzees. Yahtzee. Yahtzee YouTube, it's Yahtzee, TikTok shop. You know, on TikTok, whenever that happens, you just go TikTok shop, and then because they think you're promoting something in the shop. Yeah. In the early August of 2001, there are many references in the transcripts to the fact that Fred Ireland's participation was key to the project, and that without him, there was no contact with the Cassiopaeans. That's really important, you guys. When Mr. Ireland decided that after 9 years of interaction with Miss Knight Yadczyk, he had simply had enough, Miss Knight Yadczyk decided to retroactively erase his presence and importance. However, even though it was Miss Knight Yadczyk's main credibility crutch, she seems to have forgotten that the St. Pete's Time article written by Tom French clearly reports Fred's presence and importance. There is even a photo of their two hands on the planchette. This proves that her comments denigrating Mr. Ireland's significance are simply more of her multitude of lies. At the point that Mr. Ireland left, there were no books planned, no sales of transcripts, or nascent cults being developed. It seemed that this was his fear. So he was afraid. So it seems like he was afraid that Laura was going to turn this into a cult. Right. And a good part of the reason why he made the decision he did.
Or not even, I don't even know if it was, I don't know if he knew the intentions of Laura turning it into a cult. I just think that he didn't want to make money off of it. He just wanted to put it out there, and he wanted it out there so people could have open discussion about about what was being said by the Cassiopaeans.
He wanted to be transparent.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. He has never given permission in any way for the material developed through his ability to be used on the basis of a cult for a long-term aggrandizement of Miss Knight Yadczyk. As soon as he was apprised of the current state of affairs, Mr. Ireland agreed to publicly assert his copyright to the matter, and at the same time make that material freely available to anyone who was interested. Reprints and reposting must contain at Frederick G. Ireland, 1994 to 2000. He asserts the moral and legal right to be identified as the author of the material and the right to have that material used only with his permission. So he seems like he initially copyrighted it just to stop Laura.
Right, because because he had already stepped, from what I understand, Frederick had already stepped away from Laura. Like Laura. When he had stepped away from Laura when Laura and Vincent Bridges started to establish a rapport. And then it wasn't until Vincent Bridges talked about being the publisher of Laura's books that she was working on. I guess she was already working on the first one. And so at that time, some issues came up with copyright. And that's when Vincent Bridges was like, oh, well, who's this Frederick guy? Is what the way I understand it. But that's going to come up. That's going to come up later when we do the next episode that I found a timeline breakdown. So Vincent
so basically Fred, or Frank as he's called, he didn't copyright the material to be an asshole to stop people like you and me from discussing it on our YouTube channels eventually. He did it basically to control Laura, to stop Laura from to abusing the material.
Right. That's it.
That's all. Yeah. So he doesn't seem to be the type of person. I want to reiterate that because I could see the comments now. I don't think he was trying to stop anybody else from talking about the Cassiopaeans or writing about the Cassiopaeans. He had known Laura for 9 years. He knew what she was like, and he knew if he didn't take some legal possession over the material, she was going to take advantage of it. She was going to abuse it, and she was going to corrupt it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the truth about the Cassiopeia update.
I'm not. So, okay, hold on. I'm not sure if this is what we want to get into. I think it's going to have a lot of words that we're going to have to be careful of.
I can do that, I think. Do you want me to just keep reading?
Well, but okay, you could, but I was thinking that that maybe we could leave this part out. Oh no, actually no, we shouldn't.
No,
because it gets into the OP thing.
So I'll start it because I'm pretty good for the most part at these words. So I'll just start it. How about that? And then you can take over.
And then I'll take over once we get down to the organic portal part.
Okay. In the 6 months or so since the Don't Feed the Demon policy took hold, I have refrained from making any further comments. That policy still seems wise, but several things have come up that seem to require another round. And I get that Don't Feed the Demon. I think this is before we really knew about narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder. And they usually say you're supposed to like ignore a narcissist.
And also this is, and let's take note that back in 2002, the internet was still fairly new in a sense. It wasn't as extensive as it is today. And I think this thing, with having smear campaigns run on you and, coupled with the newness of the internet is a pretty major thing. Like you're trying to navigate this smear campaign, because normally smear campaigns would only be able to travel around slowly within your network of people. But now all of a sudden people are having to learn how to navigate a smear campaign that can travel the world immediately.
Yeah, and I actually made a note to myself to make sure I remember to put the Hidden True Crime podcast in the description box, because he talks about this. This is called What Happened to Vincent Bridges. Is called cyber stalking. It's what happened to me.
Uh-huh.
And cyber stalking, and of course back then they wouldn't have had that term, cyber stalking.
Right.
It's from, according to Dr. John, this episode, this 3-hour episode, it's fascinating. Cyber stalking is some of the worst things you can go through. And when he talked about what happens to victims of cyber stalking, like I almost cried in the car listening to it, because it validated a lot of things funks I've been in. And so when we talk about like normal narcissistic tendencies, in your normal life, you're supposed to just ignore them or like bore them to death. What's that called? Gray rocking. You're not interesting. But when it comes to cyber stalking, this is a different beast. And this is what happened to Vincent. You can't ignore it. You can try, but you can't. And the reason why Hidden True Crime did a podcast over this is because they've experienced it too. And Dr. John is a psychologist. And so he can talk about this. This is different than just a regular narcissistic smear campaign. This is very different. It's cyber stalking. And with cyber stalking, there is what they call malicious intent behind it. Right. And a lot of times, I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm just saying, generally speaking, a lot of times that malicious intent is the unaliving of the victim, the person you're stalking.
Yeah. Okay.
So I wanted to say, when he says don't feed the demon, that was old school thought before the internet. Okay. Right. So he goes on to say, one of these is the fact that lots of folks are passing through the website and looking at this page that haven't a clue what it's all about. For these, an overview is necessary. They want to know what the dispute is about, really. Why are these two people calling each other out in such nasty names? Is there any point to it all? Interestingly enough, the answer to the question is the second reason why further comment seems required. Since we closed down all the discussion groups, I have had a steady stream of emails from people wanting to tell me about their experiences with Laura Knight Jadczyk and the Cassiopaean cult. Most of these are just congratulatory for presenting the other side of the story. A few want to know more about the whole thing, and a few need some help understanding why they had the reaction to the Cassiopaeans that they did. I have yet to receive a single email from someone whose experience with the Cassiopaeans was positive. The most common emotional reaction on even the outer fringes of the cult is one of fear, bordering on acute paranoia. What it must be like on the inside is simply beyond imagining. Which brings me to the third reason why further comments seem necessary. This atmosphere of fear and extreme paranoia, which the Cassiopaeans seem to generate, has attracted some unusual followers. One of them began to email me over the evening of October 10th, as you were saying, and I posted his email on the sacredmysteries.com forum that morning under the heading Unaliving Threats from the Cassiopaeans. Here's a sample. So this is what this guy sent. Greetings from David Palladino, leader of the Human Resistance and lead vocalist of the band going by the same name. Hey, Vinny, your constant harassment of people, threats, lies, theft, and unjust actions will be tolerated no longer. I hear you are a magician of some powers, and you claim to be some kind of expert in many fields. You go by the name of Dr. Strange and hide behind lawyers as you have no courage, valor, or honor. You are a joke. I have been kind of busy, to be honest, but I haven't kept up to date as much as possible with your actions. Well, they say you reap what you sow, and my friends, and you, my friend, have been a very naughty little Vincent. You think you have power. You think you can scare people. You think you can bully people. ... Looks like I found you, bitch boy. Hey, fancy a chat? Listen, word I can't say. Very bad word. F word. My telephone number in England is, he gives the number, give me a call, Vinny, and we can discuss the possibility of you staying alive to see Christmas. Laters, you pathetic, whimpering, lying, slandering, shit disturbing, cowardly. I'm not going to read all of that because I don't want YouTube to pick this up that we're saying this stuff. You want to push someone around? Try me. You think you are tough? I will give you 1,000 unalivings, worse than you can possibly imagining. The clock is ticking. And as Ice-T said, is my mind. Okay, I couldn't say that. I mean, I've gotten threats like that. Like, yeah, that's scary when you get a threat like that. Especially when they come, like, I mean, my stalker did 1,000 threats in one day alone.
Oh, yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah, it was nuts. I give him a call and verified that it was indeed a real person named David Palladino. And then, of course, I reported him to various authorities. After a few more salvos, he grew tired of the game and went away. That seemed to be that until a few days ago when someone inside the cult emailed me about a new unaliving threat page on the website. The emailer, whose identity remains unknown, wanted to know if I was in fact the source of the threat, which they found incredible, or if I was the final proof that Laura had gone completely nuts. Needless to say, this got my attention. Since I am banned from even reading the Cassiopaean site, it took some doing to find the page my email correspondent mentioned. I hadn't seen the Cassiopaean website since last winter, and I found the changes to be more than disturbing. Even more than the slickness of the new approach, including the glaring ad for the raffle of the millennium. I was disturbed by the tone of the cultic superiority. As I searched for the unaliving threat article, I read through much of what Laura had been up to for the last few months. Appalling is too kind of word. Just interrupt me when you want to get in, Todd, okay?
I'll start reading now. Let us ignore the crass insanity of trying to solve your financial problems by raffling off your house and pass over without further mention the badly written and overpriced tomes of Otto Hegi. I just jumped in. Isn't that when you write about yourself like you're a saint or something like that?
Probably, and self-aggrandizement. So yes,
right, yeah, self-aggrandizement. Anyone wonder what happened to the Noah syndrome? I'll bet those folks who pre-ordered it do. Let us also just note in passing her new obsession with Boris I don't even know.
I don't know who he is. A curious figure who played
Moraviev. I've heard of this guy before. Her obsession with Boris Moraviev, a curious figure who plagiarized both Gurdjieff and Opinski to give Eastern Orthodox Christianity a
superfluous
metaphysical background. I guess I got to learn how to read better. Sorry, background.
It's small.
Yeah, you're just coming up with excuses for me. And the adoption of his curiously skewed fourth way teaching as a new mystical core of the Cassiopaean cult, and get straight to the heart of the problem: paranoid delusion.
Well, here's a woman. Can I just say the fact that Vincent uses so many big words properly means that he's probably actually read more books than Laura has.
Right, yeah. Quite a few more than me, obviously.
It's hard to read. It's small. It's really small.
You're just making it. Thanks for standing up for me here.
I have to get close to the screen to see it. So,
all right. Here's a woman who claims to communicate with disincarnate beings via a Ouija board. this could be considered a major pathological delusion in and of itself, but combined with the aggressive cultic behavior of the last few years, we might suspect a more serious psychosis. Charismatic and psychopathic leaders create cultic climates as a kind of hothouse in which their delusions can flower. As the Cassiopaean cult developed, Laura's delusions of persecution and self-importance inflated and grew into the curious dogma of the group. This paranoid delusion has now coalesced into the doctrine of the organic portal. Although the metaphysics of this doctrine are as arcane as any a scholastic churchman could wish for, simply put, it is a dualistic belief that separates the world into those who have souls or could have souls and those who are hopelessly without souls and therefore completely dehumanized. Here's how the cult puts it. Okay, so let's stop here for a second.
Yeah, I want to say too, when he says dehumanized, before I forget, I know you want to talk about this. This is something that is behind, if you listen to Hidden True Crime, this is something that's behind almost every major crime, is that the victim of a crime is usually dehumanized before the crime takes place. So that's a big word that he used, dehumanize, like to dehumanize people. But now go on, because I know what you're going to say. So go on.
So I was going to go on to say, or an organic portal is a thing, I believe, is a thing. And I understand why he's going after it here. It's because the cult is using it to dehumanize people. And so, what's that?
The centers, like us.
Right.
They're using a term that is very true as a way to create an us versus them.
Just like a suppressive person would be used by Scientology, the Cassiopaean cult are using organic portals, which is a shame because to understand, because I think it's one of the more valuable things that have come out of the Cassiopaeans, because they like to brag, the service to self, like to brag about look what we've created here, these things, organic portals, and look what we can do with them. But the cult has grasped that to use it as a weapon to dehumanize the dissenters, the people that dare question the cult or question its ideas.
Or question Laura.
More importantly, are those that have stepped away. Oh, they're just an organic portal. Anyway, I just wanted to put that in there.
And that's because he's talking about they're using this in a very dangerous way. And we've even asked Todd, we asked Lou about organic portals, and you said, are we allowed to treat them any differently? And Lou said, absolutely not.
Because they have within them the spark of the creator.
Yes, even though they're not fully sold, even though they've jumped the line, they've done something, they're going to have to, karma is not free, there's cause and effect, they're going to have to go back and do second density again, but they still have the spark of the creator. So if you are with an organic portal or a narcissist, there are some narcissists that have souls, the soul is just in distress. It's the same, you just put up a boundary, that's it.
Right.
That's it, you don't, they're still humans. Right.
The label is not important. It's the actions of the person that are important.
Right.
So if someone is behaving like an organic portal, there's absolutely no reason to label that person. The more important part is
treating them terribly. Just because somebody is an organic portal does not give you reason to treat them terribly. If anything, you just put a boundary up. That's it.
Right. You separate yourself from the person, you put a boundary up, or either deal with them at an arm's length.
But it doesn't give you the right to try to ruin their life or treat them like they're not human. It is dehumanizing, right?
It is.
That's what the cult is doing. It's anybody who pushes back and says, I don't agree with you. They then label that person an organic portal, so they dehumanize that person. So all of a sudden their voice doesn't matter.
Right.
I think our audience gets that. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that people got that. Okay, let me keep going. The DNA of these two races is so mixed that both could be found within the same family as your brother, sister, mother, father, daughter, or son. not somebody other across the world or across the street worshiping a different god or with a different skin color. It may be somebody you live with every day of your life. And if so, they have but one reason to be there: to drain, distract, and deflect soul beings from evolving. Therefore, soulless beings are evil, or can be easily used by evil, and their sole purpose is to keep those with the potential to have souls from evolving them. Here's how another occultist put it. OPs collect soul energy from souled individuals. This energy is transmitted to 4D service to self. OPs are intermixed in families with souled individuals. When a souled individual makes the commitment to the work, he or she needs to learn to conserve the soul energy, or without it, the work cannot be done. When one makes a commitment to the work, one comes under attack. This attack comes from those closest to you, family and friends. But when someone is in the process of growing and strengthening the soul, the control system will seek to insert even more units into the person's life.
Can we pause here too? Because that is very indicative of occult, what they're saying. Like, you don't even trust your siblings, don't trust your spouse, only trust the cult.
Right. When some people say, wait a second, you're changing your life because someone on a Ouija board told you that you need to change it, and there are people in their family would be like, you need to stop this. This is crazy making. And then they could just say, oh my God, my mother and father are organic portals. And so then you could dehumanize them and cut them off.
Yeah.
What's that?
Organic portals only go after wanderers. They don't go after soul people.
Right. But that's where it's being changed. Mm-hmm. Yes. And so what they believe is that organic portals go after all souled people, or those people that don't have a soul that are trying to do the work to earn a soul, which that's just not a thing. So, but they've created their whole dogma around the organic portal, and it's very convenient the way that they've packaged it.
Yeah. And it's
the same thing. OP and SP. Organic portals, or the Scientologist version of SPs, the suppressive person. This is literally
the same.
It's by the same playbook.
Yeah.
Even though I do believe in organic portals,
I don't.
But the way that they're using it here is
power.
Yes.
And I just want to remind people that just because you have conflict with somebody in your life does not mean that person is an organic portal.
Right.
Just because somebody questions your beliefs or question things you're doing does not mean that they are an adversary of yours or that they are an organic portal.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Hard to imagine, even with all our modern psychiatric knowledge, a more paranoid belief system than the one presented here. Half of humanity are soulless animals bent on the destruction of the other half. They could be anyone at any time, anywhere, even those we love most. And if we do find out the truth, as provided by the semi-omniscient Cassiopaeans, then we come under even greater attack and can trust no one but those already in the cult. A perfect paranoid catch-22.
Exactly. It makes the cult the ultimate de facto teller of truth.
Right. Yeah. So suppose, for instance, that an individual found the cult, joined their discussion groups, and began to spend all his free time and energy discussing what the Cassiopaeans had to say about everything. And his friends and family grew concerned about his behavior. The cultist could point to the situation as proof of the contention that the commitment to the work causes further attacks. See, they say your family, friends, associates, are all now revealed as unhuman, soulless monsters trying to stop your growth as a souled being.
Exactly.
Dehumanizing half the human race, and especially those who oppose you, results in the kind of behavior and expression Mr. Padalino demonstrated in his emails above. To him, I am clearly just an organic portal, feeding energy to the Lizzies on the astral plane, and therefore deserve anything, including unaliving, that he, as a true human, cares to dish out. Not by their not by their leaves or their blossoms shall ye judge them, but their fruits.
That's from the
In
Bible.
this case, the fruit hasn't fallen very far from the tree, as both Laura and Mr. Padalino share the same core beliefs and dysfunctions. And so I wasn't surprised when I finally tracked down the unaliving threats page and found that somehow Laura's super deductive powers had determined that I was the culprit in this heinous and anonymous attack. After all, I was a chief soulless organic portal in her worldview. For her system to remain intact, it had to be me.
So let's stop right there and pause there too, because I want to break this is all this whole thing is all about Laura.
Right.
No, I don't want to stop right there for forever. I'm just saying.
You don't? Oh, okay. I was thinking that would be a good place to stop.
No, I think we should. Do we have more of this? I can't scroll. You have to scroll.
Yeah, we do. And I want you to read. You can read.
Okay, sure. But this is everything about this Cassiopaean cult has to do with preserving Laura's self-image and fantasies about herself. This has fuck all to do with humanity. This has fuck all to do with helping anybody else through their problems. Everything about this is about preserving Laura's narrative.
Right, and let's jump. And Vincent eventually talks about this further on, but I want to bring this up now. All Vincent wanted was to separate himself. He just wanted to walk away. He wasn't putting stuff out online, smearing Laura, saying anything about Laura.
Right?
All he decided to do is look. I'm just going to go. We're going to go our separate ways. We're not going to do this book deal. You know, Frank has the copyrights here, and you two are in dispute. I'm just going to step away. And then the smear campaign on Vincent started, and he was saying before he started writing all of this stuff, he was saying, "Look, just take the stuff down off your website you've said about me, and we'll just end this here." And it did not stop. It just kept going and going. And then, you know, once you start fighting back, then you give it more fuel and it just spirals out of control. And that's the situation that he got himself in. So how dare he
defend himself?
Or no, really at the beginning, how dare he want to create a boundary?
Right.
How dare he not want to publish Laura's books?
Right, because that's making Laura feel that her narrative isn't being preserved, that she's so wonderful and so great. And of course, everybody wants to read her work because she is the Messiah. She is the second coming of Christ.
Right.
And you saw the way he was saying that guy spoke to him. And that's exactly what Lou has told us not to do. That you do not treat organic portals like they are pieces of crap and don't deserve your respect. They're still human beings. They still have a fractal of God in them. If they're causing you problems in your life, you just do what everybody does, like Vincent was going to do. He was just going to put a boundary up and walk away. He wasn't going to do anything to them or try to hurt them. He was just going to, and so yeah, anyway. Okay, so here we go. Her proof is in an anonymous email and an anonymous letter from New York. Since I had been her pull the fake email. Okay, let me start that again. Her proof is in an anonymous email and an anonymous letter from New York. Since I have seen her pull the fake email routine before, the email is suspect. But the letter mailed from New York City could be more interesting. The postmark could tell us where in the city it was mailed and when it was processed. As I have been nowhere near New York City in quite a while, this should help clarify matters. At least one prominent cult member lives in Brooklyn and works in Manhattan, and it would be interesting to see if the letter was mailed from either of these locations. Needless to say, I had nothing to do with either one of these communications. I am, however, fairly certain that Laura herself faked the second letter. The devil, they like to say, is in the details, and the details here is the timing. I posted the emails from Mr. Padalino, who may in fact be in their inner group on October 10th. On October 28th, 2.5 weeks later, Laura posted her unaliving threats article. This is more than enough time to read the emails posted on sacredmysteries.com's forum and then concoct a reply that diverts attention back to the evil OPs behind it all. Here's the letter. You stupid, 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 stupid piece of shit. You are channeling with Satan himself. Stupid. Oh, Miss Knight feels like a chess piece when your life was falling apart. You idiot. Satan is telling you the truth right to your face. The biggest secret is that you are being controlled by him. You are a chess piece, you idiot. The Lord Jesus Christ is going to release him on your head. Prepare to be destroyed along with your entire organization. The whole world was a gift to Satan promised to him in eternity past while he was still Lucifer. Jesus keeps his promise. Satan is allowed to run the entire planet and every human being on it, to a certain extent, to wage war against the Lord, whom you have blasphemed for the last time. Prepared to be destroyed by Satan's hand. I'm so funny. It's so funny to me because, like, I hate when people use God as a weapon and they're using Jesus as a weapon like that. Like, who the fuck do you think you are? The audacity to think that you can actually dictate what God does to somebody else.
Right, but the funnier part is that somebody would think that Vincent Bridges would send this after listening to his talks.
I know, right?
Reading through his writing and some of what he's written online, about different subjects. It's like, you really think that he would send an anonymous letter like this?
Like this? It's like a fifth grader wrote it.
And then if you go to the Cassiopaean page dedicated to this letter, it's nuts. They've like taken pictures of it and close-up shots and like try to analyze it, and
like they're on CSI.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Do they have the Law and Order background song playing in the background? So,
and now we look at it under the spectrometer. When you do
it's crazy.
Yeah.
So the letter clearly reveals Laura's authorship.
Right. Yeah.
It's like a fifth grader wrote it. She ain't that smart. Okay, here goes. It's full of the kind of emotional shadow projection and self-referring layers of meaning used by someone trying to indirectly communicate their worst fears by objectifying her fears about herself onto a phantom nemesis. The anonymous letter writer, her unconscious is free to give full rage to his darkest and most repressed feelings. The Miss Knight chess piece reference shows her sensations for helplessness and her fear of being under the control of anonymous forces, as obviously referenced to the Cassiopaeans. With this pun is a secret that Laura is controlled by Satan. This is the most striking example of repressed guilt and could only have come from Laura herself. No anonymous Christian wacko in New York City would have been so precise in his denotification. Her secret fear, of course, is that her contact with the Cassiopaeans is in fact demonic, as her childhood religion and the experiences of her own psyche insist is the case. No one likes to feel like a chess piece, even a knight, on someone else's game board, especially if the player moving you around has the whiff of hellfire clinging to its robes. Laura and her need to create something like Mr. Palladino's comments allowed her deepest fear of means of expression. This is what she imagines her nemesis would say to her. And therefore, since she is in her own nemesis, she says it to herself. We can only imagine that something like this plays in her mind all day, every day. And only by pursuing the evildoers, proving that she is right about everything in their case, on every topic, and constantly channeling the Cassiopaeans, can she gain even a slight amount of peace from the voices shouting, stupid, stupid, stupid. This is truly sad and pathetic even, but we should not let our compassion blind us to the dangers this cult presents to those who wander into its webs unaware. For that reason, and that reason alone, I will keep this website up as long as necessary. Thanks, Vincent Bridges. Now, where do you want to go from here? Do you want to stop it here for this episode, or is there anything else you want to cover before we move on to the next episode?
Oh, okay, there we are. All right. I want to stop here because the next one is the date, like, breakdown blow by blow
Okay.
of how all this whole situation unfolded, of him getting into this crazy battle.
Yeah. I'm excited about that. Hopefully we can do that in the next couple of days. I know my channel knows this. You know this obviously because you're with me. I am working on a documentary, and some filming dates got pushed back this week, and so that's kind of my priority of this week. Tomorrow I'm going to be sitting here all day just making sure I have everything, all my notes typed out and outlined for my part in the documentary, because it's kind of a big deal, right? Kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
And so I need to make sure that my production is ready. But once I get all that done and squared away before filming, then maybe we can look at hopefully I can get that done tomorrow, as I work on that all day tomorrow. And then maybe on Tuesday we can sit down and film the next.
Yeah. Or,
I'm excited to get this out to our people.
I am too. And it's going to get even more interesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know as we're filming this right now, it has not aired on my channel. I let Todd air it a couple of days before me because we're trying to grow his channel. So if you are watching from Esoteric Atlanta and you've been watching these videos from my channel, thank you so much for doing that. But please make sure to look in the description box, and please at least just give Todd a subscribe, because in case anything ever happens to my channel, that's where you're going to find me. Okay.
Yeah.
So
we're going to get into some cool stuff.
Yes.
It's going to be.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say this is going to be this is going to be fun.
Yeah, this is going to be really fun. People say they like us filming together because we yell at each other.
Oh yeah.
We've been together for a long time.
It's a lot more fun filming with you than when I'm doing it by myself. And
filming by yourself is hard because you're like talking to yourself. So
yeah, and I'm not a natural like you, so.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, you've seen me doing this for a while now, so it is easier and more fun to do an episode with somebody else. I will agree with you on that, because you get their reaction and their insight too. And I'm loving all the comments I'm seeing on Todd's channel so far, because this is going to drop. Part 2 is going to drop on my channel on Monday, October 27th, which is Charlie, my nephew's 13th birthday.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is.
13. You've known Charlie most of his life.
I know. Uh-huh.
Yeah, let's tell a funny story before we sign out. When Charlie was really little, he was obsessed with totem poles. And so somebody had sent
no.
No, it's so funny.
No.
One of my sister's friend had sent him like this totem pole he was really proud of. And we got to my sister's house and Todd had to go to the bathroom. And so he ran to the bathroom and like shut the door. And Charlie was trying to get Todd's attention to show him the totem pole. And he was standing outside the bathroom door. Charlie was really little, probably like what, 4, maybe 4. He was standing outside the door like, Todd, do you want to see my totem pole? And Todd was in the bathroom. I was like, yeah, sure, Charlie. When I get out, I'll come and look at it. So Charlie runs off. Todd opens the bathroom door, and the totem pole was just like sitting right there at the door so he could see it.
I almost tripped over it.
When he came out of the bathroom. So happy birthday, Charlie. I cannot believe you're 13 years old. You're a teenager now. You'll be driving soon. So anyway, but you guys, so the part 2 will be dropping on my channel October 27th. I think this is going to be dropped on either the 28th or the 29th, depending on when you get yours up on your channel. Please make sure that you subscribe to Todd over at The Confused Wanderer. All of his links will be down in the description box below. Fusion Bodies links will be down in the description box below. Hidden True Crimes podcast link will also be down in the description box below, you guys. And yeah, is there anything else you want to say, Todd, before we close out?
That's it. And if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments, and we'll try to answer them next time. So any questions about anything, about my raw material videos or about Cassiopaean stuff, the channeling, any questions about that, just leave them down, and at the end of an episode we can throw those questions in and answer them.
Yeah,
that would be a lot of fun.
You've got some really great comments,
the last few minutes of every episode. What's that?
Especially about Vincent Bridges, people who are familiar with his work.
Yeah.
Oh, and FYI, I've got a lot, you guys. We are going to be going over, after I get through the documentary, so much of Sergei Monast's work as well. So much. And I even giving them to Todd to look through this work, these documents, so we can compare them to the Law of One to get more insight into these documents that were released in like the 90s. Sergei Monast was one of the OGs. So, all right, you guys. Well, we'll talk to you all very soon.
All right. Till next time. Bye.